everybody, welcome to Stonx Music. My name's Ollie and today we're going to be having a look at echo in this deep dive episode. Let's go! Right, so here we are back in the Ableton manual. Let's see what they've got to say about it. Echo. Echo is a modulation delay effect that lets you set the delay time on two independent delay lines, whilst giving you control over envelope and filter modulation. The channel mode button lets you choose between three different modes: stereo, ping pong and mid-side. The left and right delay line controls let you choose the delay time, which can be set in beat divisions or milliseconds, depending on the state of the sync switch. Note that when the mid-side channel mode is selected, the left and right delay line controls are replaced with mid-side knobs. You can use the sync mode choosers to select one of the following beat synced modes: notes, triplet, dotted and 16th. Note that when switching between sync modes, the resulting changes are only audible while the sync switch is set to sync. When stereo link is engaged, changing either channel's delay line control, sync, switch or sync mode setting will apply the changes to both sides. Changing the delay offset slider shortens or extends the delay time by fractional amounts, thus producing the swing type of timing effect found in drum machines. Note that when stereo link is enabled, the delay offset can still be adjusted individually for the two delay lines. The input knob sets the amount of gain applied to the dry signal. To apply distortion to the dry signal, press the D button. The feedback parameter defines how much of each channel's output signal feeds back into the delay line's inputs. The phase button inverts each channel's output signal before adding it back into their inputs. Echo tab. The Echo tab provides a visualization and control of the delay line and filter parameters. The Echo tunnel's circular lines represent the individual repeats, progressing from the outside of the tunnel to its center. The distance between the lines indicates the time between the repeats, and the white dots in the middle form a fixed 1/8 note grid for reference. You can adjust the delay times for each delay line by clicking and dragging in the display. The filter toggle enables a high pass and low pass filter. The HP slider adjusts the cutoff frequency of the high pass filter, and the adjacent res slider adjusts the high pass filter's resonance. The LP slider adjusts the cutoff frequency of the low pass filter, and you can use the res slider on the right side to adjust the low pass filter's resonance. The filter display makes it possible to visualize the filter curves. To show or hide the filter display, use the triangular toggle button. You can also adjust the filter parameters by clicking and dragging either of the filter dots in the filter display. Modulation tab. Echo's modulation tab contains an LFO that modulates filter frequency and delay time, and an envelope follower that can be blended with the LFO. You can choose from one of 6 different modulation waveforms, including sine, triangle, sawtooth up, sawtooth down, square and noise. The selected waveform will appear in the display, which you can drag to adjust the modulation frequency. When sync is enabled, modulation is synchronized to the song tempo. You can use the rate slider to set the frequency of the modulation oscillator in beat divisions. When sync is disabled, you can use the frequency slider to adjust frequency of the modulation oscillator in hertz. Phase adjusts the amount of offset between the waveforms from the left and right channel. At 180 degrees, the channels will be perfectly out of phase. Mod delay adjusts the amount of modulation that is applied to the delay time. Modulation times 4 scales the delay time modulation depth by a factor of 4. With short delay times, this produces deep, flanging sounds. Mod filter adjusts the amount of modulation that is applied to the filter. Envelope mix blends between the modulation oscillator and an envelope follower. At 100%, only the envelope's modulation will be heard. At 0%, only the LFO's modulation will be heard. Character tab. Echo's character tab contains parameters that control dynamics and add imperfections to your sound. Gate enables a gate at Echo's input. It mutes the signal components below its threshold. Threshold sets the threshold level that incoming audio signals must exceed in order to open the gate. Release sets how long it takes for the gate to close after the signal has dropped below the threshold. When ducking is enabled, the wet signal is proportionately reduced as long as there is an input signal. Ducking begins to affect the output signal when the input level exceeds the set threshold. Release sets how long it takes for ducking to stop after the input signal drops below the threshold. When enabled, noise introduces noise to simulate the character of vintage equipment. You can adjust the amount of noise added to the signal and morph between different types of noise. When enabled, wobble adds an irregular modulation of the delay time to simulate tape delays. You can adjust the amount of wobble added to the signal and morph between different types of wobble modulation. Repitch causes a pitch variation when changing the delay time, similar to the behavior of hardware delay units. When repitch is disabled, changing the delay time creates a crossfade between the old and new delay times. Note that in order to save CPU, the Echo device turns itself off at least 8 seconds after its input stops producing sound. However, Echo will not switch off if both the noise and gate parameters are enabled. Global controls. The reverb knob sets the amount of reverb added, and you use the reverb location chooser to set where the reverb is added in the processing chain, pre-delay, post-delay, or within the feedback loop. Use the decay slider to lengthen or shorten the reverb tail. The stereo control sets the stereo width of the wet signal. 0% yields a mono signal, whereas values above 100% create a widened stereo panorama. The output sets the amount of gain applied to the processing signal, and the dry-wet controls adjust the balance between the processed and the dry signals. Set it to 100% when using Echo in a return track. The dry-wet parameters context menu lets you toggle equal loudness. When enabled, a 50-50 mix will sound equally loud for most signals. Right, so we've got a good few things in Echo here. Let's jump into Ableton and run a few examples. Right, here we are back in Ableton. I've started off just by making a little beat for us to mess around with. There's quite a lot to go through with this one, so I'll start off with the things I kind of do, and then we'll have a little explore into some of the other things. So let's have a quick listen to this beat. So there's this little gap here between the one with the end of the bar and the one with the repeat. So we've got this. That's a great candidate that I would usually chuck an echo on. So let's just grab this here, and I'm going to automate the dry wet. And you could do this in a return track. I'd like to do it this way. So we'll go there, and then it's going to come all the way down somewhere here. So let's have a listen now, and that's just its default as it comes, dotted note eighths. Let's have a little listen. So it's just kind of a nice way to transition across the bar, and it gives us something here. We'll listen to it solo, just hear what you get. And that dotted note does give quite a nice kind of rhythm to it. So let's have a little mess where we change that to just the normal note, eighth note. So have a listen. And that works too. It's not quite got as much of a groove. Let's try triplets. Yeah, again, that's kind of cool. And let's go to sixteenths. Sixteenths and dotted are kind of the two nicest for my personal preferences. So the other thing that we've got is we can, and you see here, change the left and right offset. So double click to set things back to the middle. So let's move the right speaker a little bit later and the left speaker a little bit early, and let's listen to what we have now. And on headphones you can really hear a much wider sound there, and that's the kind of thing that would be really nice for this sound design, spatial awareness. If you keep these both in the middle, it's going to messy your mix up quite quickly, but in this case where we're using it to bridge a gap, it's okay in the middle because there is the space there for it. So I'm going to jump over to the end of the bar here, and let's imagine that we're going into a break section next. So we've got some pads that might come up from here. Let me grab this one I was using the other day. This was a freebie, Serenity. So let's imagine we have a pad section after this. So let's just record something. I doubt that's even going to be in time. Let's pull it in time. I probably should have had the thing on. There we go. So imagining here we're going across into a break section. And that's a very abrupt stop there, and this is another reason why I'd use the echo. Typically on the last sound here, like we have already, so let's just do what we were doing before and take this dry wet up. You can hear this. And that's quite nice, but what we could also do to give us some content to be using for the inevitable next build-up is take this feedback, and once we take it above 100%, see there's 100, once you start going into this up to 150, it's going to be self-oscillating. You can see here it just starts going a little bit mad, so we'll take it up. Quite a nasty noise because it's doing that self-oscillating kind of nasty frequencies, but this can be really useful if we now look into our filters here. So we've got our high pass and low pass filters, and we can take a look with them off, with them on, and this is where I like to grab the high pass, so we don't want any of that low end content, but we can again right click, show automation, and just start filtering that up over time. So we might want to do that like twice as long, somewhere over there, and have this build up. So we could have that filter up all the way up to there. Let's have a quick listen now. By this point it's completely filtered away. There's still some of those harsh frequencies there, so this is where something like the reverb might come in nicely. We're going to right click, show automation, and we'll just bring that reverb amount up as that harshness starts to occur. So let's have a listen again. And then I might say the volume seems to be building quite high there, so we could bring the volume down of the dry wet signal. So the dry signal's obviously disappeared by this point, so the dry wet now just becomes a volume knob for your processed sound. So let's have a little listen again. So that's now got quite a nice transition between what was otherwise your drums just dead stop, and in my opinion this is one of the things I think a lot of people tend to not get wrong, but just kind of forget about. I think it's quite easy to forget about this stuff and end up with quite static mixes. So these kind of transitional things, this is what I think echo is. Its main function for me is really just helping ease these transitions and giving you these sounds that just keep things going. Then we could right click that and turn the automation completely off, and then we could copy paste our beat back in after this drop. So it'd be do the whole thing again. By that point it's totally gone. So that's just a nice little way, I think, to beef up your transitions. So next thing I wanted to do is a bit more of creative design with the echo, more like we did with the delay. We have this ping pong mode. So let me just make quickly a little sound. Just go for triangle and we'll hit our ADSR to make it a little bit of a plonky sound. Nice and cheesy. So let me grab, I suppose I can just grab this again and we will Control L, Control J to knock it all together. And then we could be fancy pants and grab the arpeggiator. Let's grab that and see what we can get. I kind of want that to go on for a bit longer really, but we'll do it all for shorter. Let's move that. You here. Move that one across. Boom, boom, Control D, touch with them, Control J. One quick tip, this is completely unrelated, but we might as well do it now. The way that we've been resampling audio, you can also resample your MIDI. So if we add a new MIDI track to here and go all MIDI ins, we'll change that to operator 9, we can solo, record, and take the MIDI notes out from that arpeggiator. So have a quick look. So then we have that we can put back into the top and turn our arpeggiator off if we wanted to then go in and make some changes ourselves. So it's just a quick little one for resampling MIDI as well as audio. So anyway, if we jump in and we grab our echo again, and this time we hit ping pong. So we can see straight away what that's done is the equivalent of if we had it stereo and you're knocking these out of line with each other, it's getting that same one side and then the other. So we'll hit ping pong and we can choose our notes. We can either have them separate or we can have them together. So let's just listen eighth notes default as it comes with the ping pong. So the length of these notes being 16ths and this being 18th dotted, it's kind of got a weird cave, like sounds like a cave in a video game to me. So instead of dotted, let's hit that to notes and we'll hit that to 16ths, come up the other way. So now it's going to be playing in the same speed of the notes that are playing. That little bit at the beginning is it doing the repitch, we'll get to that in a second. So that's kind of a nice creative way to do things. The other thing we can do to make this a bit more evident, if we grab the whole lot, Control A and times it by 2. So I'm going to duplicate the whole thing just so we're not messing with the same echo. So let's come to here and we'll set it to quarters. So now it's hitting the note when the next note is playing, which is what it was doing here, but it was a bit quicker. So now you can hear it more defined. So it's kind of rebuilding those chords that were there. So if we were to use that on top of this, and actually that whole thing would need Control A and times by 2. So these two now you can hear it's kind of rebuilding that chord by using the echo, which is quite nice. The other thing we could do is set it to half so it's even further, so it's going to play 2 notes before it starts repeating. And that quite quickly builds this kind of hypnotic, lulling movement sound. The other things that we can do with this, if we take it back up to our eighths, so it's going to be repeating quicker than the notes are playing, then we can have a look at the modulation and the character. So let's have a listen. So now it's kind of hard to tell where the initial note is and where the delay is coming in. So if we come to this modulation and we can set the mod amount up. So these two modulations, this one's for the delay and this one's for the filter. So we turn the filter one off for the moment, and you can hear when it's right up, that delay time is being flung around all over the place and it's making quite a ridiculous sound. But that in itself is still quite a nice useful sound. So if we were to right click the rate here, and we could set that to be getting faster over time. Quite a nice build up. That's going to work much nicer if we turn sync off, and then we can do it with an actual rate amount. So let's go all the way down here and we'll have a listen. And that kind of sounds like it's losing its mind quite a bit. That's really nice in a build up or in a break apart section before your final drop where you're going to do something crazy. There's a really nice section somewhere like around here where it built up to this real creepy kind of vibe. I really like that. So it's this very small kind of movement, and you can see here that the left and right are out of phase from each other. You can hit the phase knob here to see you can get them totally in, totally out. They were just kind of somewhere. Let's see if I control Z. Where were they actually? Doesn't say 60, 80, somewhere here. And in the headphones you can really hear how much that's pinging from side to side, but it gives this kind of nice creepy vibe. If we take that mod amount down so it's not at 100%, it won't be quite as obvious. So you can hear with the mod down it's a subtler effect. And then our filter, if we were to come back to our echo and we can open the filter up, we can make it a bit more obvious what's going on by doing something crazy like this with the filter, and then when we do the modulation amount we should be able to hear the difference. So you can hear it's kind of building up from one side. And let me see, can we actually see it? No. And let me take that, duplicate this whole thing again, just so we're not messing with the same thing over and over, and then let me delete this automation, and then we'll have it at a much faster rate, and we'll set the phase opposite from each other, so now you should be able to hear it much more obviously. So you can hear that filter flailing around as well now. And then if we were to dry wet all the way up, we can completely get rid of that initial sound and just... And you might think, what's the point in this? Well, that would make quite a nice build-up sound. It's kind of weird techno-y things or whatever it is. Set that frequency up. And then the kind of thing I'd probably do on that is add an auto filter after it and have it building up or coming down, whatever way it is you want it to occur. And we start that up there and kind of have that. So that's going to be filtering up, and we'll have this speeding up at the same time. And a bunch of you out there might think, what the hell are you doing? Those are horrible sounds. Those kind of horrible sounds are a really nice way to add some interesting behaviour into your build-ups, rather than just having this typical riser going up with a boom, 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 boom. You can kind of build these off-kilter movements which can just kind of throw your listener off and not quite sure what's going on. So that's one of the really fun things I like to do with echo. And I'd usually use this on the sound design stage, so I'd go and resample that. I might do that for twice as long, and same with the filter, have that coming up and then maybe going back down, and I'll just duplicate that and have you up here. And then what was the other one we were automating? That one, it could go up and come back down, and then Control T, resample mode, and press record. We don't get anything at the beginning because the frequency is so low. So that's a bit of a bonkers sound. You can even see here it is a bit bonkers. We're going left channel only, swings over to the right channel before it starts kind of doing this crazy flailing noise here. But you could take bits off of this, you could resample. There's some kind of nice lower donks, some higher donks, and then when you start messing around with the actual warp settings of this and bringing it to different tempos, you can get some real fun kind of sounds. So there's no normal use for this, doing the drums and kind of giving you these nice transients to these kind of crazy transitional sounds here. What else can we do? Let's have a little look at characters. So here's another whole fun thing with the gate, ducking, noise and wobble mode. So what shall I grab? What shall I grab? Let's do an operator again because I love it. So we'll come here, we'll do this, we'll grab one of these, we'll just touch whatever, we'll them a bit, something like this. One of them, this one up, attack like that. You can have one of them, and then we'll hit you to you're quite nice. And let's see what we got. Transpose minus 24. Oop. Minus 24. So we come to the echo. We're going to have these out of sync mode and have them right down here somewhere. Turn the modulation off. You can see here with the time that quick, it really is just... So I like it somewhere here where it starts getting that kind of metallic-y sound. We'll come over to character and whack the wobble on. So with that off, with it on, and hear this, it just kind of starts doing this kind of weird stuff, which is great. The noise amount, we can whack this up a bit. And you hear that same modulated noise coming through, and the morph amount we can then change how much that's going. So with that off. Just kind of gives it that little afterwards. Ducking. So you can hear where it's going to kick in. Now, this kind of sound, the ducking isn't going to make much of a difference because it's not a very dynamic sound at this point. But if we were to put an EQ after it with some weird boosts or something, we could make that only that boosted section poke through. So if we come to our Max for Live, audio effects, LFO, map, frequency 2's frequency, there we go. Set the scale up and the rate. So this boosted volume, the highest part of the signal, is the bit that's going to get pushed through into the echo. And if we actually turn this down, it might be more obvious. So it's only the moving frequency. Alright, shush now. It's only that moving frequency that's getting modulated. I'll turn that off. Because we're boosting it, it's going above the threshold here, whereas the rest of the normal sound isn't above the threshold. And the gate, again, it's not going to be as easy to notice on this sound, but we should be able to get it. Just giving you a little more control over when the echo is actually kicking in. So if you had this on a return track, it might make a bit more sense to dial in these, the gate and the ducking, or for a special effect cause, it might be nice to do these. One of the things that could be fun in this particular instance, if we make that not go down as far, we could just have it up here somewhere, and then we can automate the time here. Because we have repitch mode turned on, we're going to see some, I always say nice when I mean nasty, but we're going to see some movement happening and that kind of repitching sound. So let me get that squelcher down. So if we were to automate the actual delay time, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Because of the repitch, as it's going to be doing the left and right difference in delay time, the same as with our delay effect, we will see and hear this repitching blend between. If we turn the dry wet up. And then if we wanted to get rid of all those bassy low frequencies and just use this as a weird riser thing. So you can hear how it's kind of boosted frequencies kind of being bent and wobbled, but also with the delay time being modulated, we can see that's going up and down, and the repitch mode is making that kind of noise. So if you turn that off and listen to the difference quick. still doing that same thing. You can hear it there, but with the repitch on, it's going to. So you're going to hear that blue, 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 blue as it's kind of ducking off where it's doing the crazy modulation. So that's a few things that I use Echo for. Hopefully it gives you a bit more of an idea, you know, what, how, what, where, why we do this. Mid-side I haven't even looked at. I literally have never looked at mid-side. So let's have a quick look. So I've got this same operator here, knocked it up a couple of octaves. It's kind of big old FME nastiness. So with mid-side mode, remembering if these are locked together, you won't really notice a difference, but unlock them. This is changed from left and right to mid and side. So now we have two different delays, one for the mid and one for the side. So we can keep one of them on time, one of them on sync, whatever it is we want to do. So let's say we keep the mid on sync, and we'll do that on, should we say, quarter notes. Turn that to 1. So now we've got. If we turn the feedback up, you can see it's adding some more. And then our side, we could hit that to, let's say, dotted, or let's do it on time, so we should be able to hear a good difference. Check our filter out, give it a bit more of the highs and lows. And if you can't hear that properly, let's grab an EQ8 in, and we'll set this to mid-side mode, and then we can take our mid and get rid of all of it. I'll get rid of our side, sorry. So we're getting rid of all of the sides now, or high passing all of the sides right up here, so you should only hear the mid section, which is our quarter note. And if we bring that down and we do the opposite, we go to our mid and high range, all of that. Mids scooped all the way, so now we're only listening to the side. You can see this is what's going on the side. So we'll turn that up and off. So then you can have your difference between your mid main delay and your side kind of fluff delay, whatever it is that you want to add in there. Alright everyone, thank you very much for tuning into this episode of Deep Dive. Hopefully you learned a thing or two about Echo. As always, project files are available in the description. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and ding-a-ling-a-ling that bell if you want to stay up to date with all of our new videos. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!